Hello, this is Stephanie, and this is Talk Tales and Trivia, the show where I talk about society, culture, pop culture, and I throw in a little bit of trivia too, so that you can stump your family and friends. It is so cool, and it's a lot of fun. If this is your first time listening to Talk Tales and Trivia, I want to welcome you with open arms, as always, and I want to thank you so much for tuning in. It means the world to me, and I appreciate it. So let me ask you guys a question. Who out there has a furry friend, a cat or a dog or some pet that you just love so much? I do. I have always had a pet. My dog Frank and I go everywhere. We go walking, we go driving in my Jeep, and he just loves it. He looks forward to doing a lot of things that include spending a lot of time sitting on my lap. And I just love it too. If you are like me and you have a furry friend, that's great. You know, when I had my gotcha day with my dog Frank in 2018, it was not during a pandemic. But honestly, it might as well have been. I wouldn't have known the difference. I was in a new apartment in a new city after just having broken up with a partner of 10 years. I didn't leave my home. I had very little outside contact with anybody, virtual or otherwise. I was all alone. For the first time in a very long time, I became even more introvert than I had ever been before, feeling sadness, sorrow, and kind of nauseous on a daily basis. Let me just say that I am inherently a cat person, but I was compelled to do everything the opposite way of how I was going about my life up until that point. The old, quote, nothing is working this way, so I'll do it the opposite and see what happens. It can't get much worse. End quote. That was my line and my way of thinking at that time. Well, in October of 2018, my precious cat, Winnie, had just passed away. It was very sad, and so I thought briefly about waiting on getting another pet altogether. Maybe I'll just wait. It was just so painful to imagine going through the worry and commitment. And plus, I had just started to travel a little bit more, but somehow I didn't dismiss it. As the weeks went by, I saw an ad on petfinder.com for a dog named Frank. In the ad, it stated that Frank was, quote, body sensitive, end quote. In other words, he was a biter. But guess what? That did not deter me. As I read the ad, I learned that he had been in a few bad homes, been rejected and returned to the shelter. But the ad also said that once the bonding phase was established, he'd be a companion for life. I was intrigued. As it ended up, I wouldn't be all alone for the rest of my life like I thought I would. Happy ending for Frank and me, for sure. But here's another pet story that's just as cool. On U.S. News and World Report, I found this. Dr. Liz O'Dare, a family medicine physician in Western Massachusetts, had wanted to adopt a dog, but she hadn't quite found the right time to do it. With work, travel, and other commitments, there just never seemed to be a great time to adopt a pet. And her 2 cats kept her company well enough with fewer needs than a dog. And isn't that the truth? But in mid-March, the world changed when the coronavirus pandemic was declared. Overnight, workplaces closed, and like many other people, Liz began working from home a lot more, offering visits with patients virtually from their homes. Having a dog would help stave off some of the isolation that accompanied the radical change, and it is radical, in lifestyle so many of us have had to cope with since the coronavirus pandemic began. She says, I'm single and I live by myself, so it felt like a really right time for me. Well, according to its July 17, 2020 COVID-19 Impact Report, the number of dogs and cat adoptions were actually down 27% when compared to the same time period a year ago, but fosters were up 9%. Many states have seen a significant decline in the number of animals entering the shelters as volunteers observe stay-at-home orders, but the increase in fosters suggests that more people are willing to take on sick or older pets that might otherwise not have found a safe home to call their own for any period of time. Because this is an ever-changing situation and each shelter faces unique challenges, adoption and fostering statistics will vary at any given time. It's so obvious. But there's no doubt that the response from community residents across the nation to support their local shelters by fostering vulnerable animals has been enormous and unprecedented. And isn't that the coolest thing? Well, for Liz, the rush to adopt meant she had to be patient to find her pandemic pet. What a name. Eventually, she connected with a shelter in Connecticut, right here where I am, that brings dogs up from the southern United States. So that's how she found Sophie, a 2-year-old, 30-pound terrier boxer mix. She's a chestnut brown with white around her face and white paws, and she's got spots running down her chest. She sounds adorable, and she is, and sweet, and she's a very low-key dog. I needed to find a dog, she says, that was going to get along well with my 2 cats. And as it turns out, Sophie is very good around the cats, who are still a little freaked out by her. Well, let me just tell you, this story has a great ending too. She brought Sophie home about a month ago. They're still adjusting to the new routine. She's totally fallen in love with this dog. So after those 2 stories, my story about Frank and Liz's story about Sophie, do you even need to hear the bullet point benefits for adopting a pet? No? Well, you know what? Here they are anyway. Well, they offer companionship. We know that. This is important if, like myself, you live alone. Before I adopted Frank, who is a Dachshund Maltese mixed breed, I had no one to look forward to seeing, no one to share my love with, and no one that needed me. And there is something to be said about the human-to-dog touch that feels so good. Well, it provides a purpose, too, the sense of purpose that everybody needs. Pet ownership is an important responsibility and one that can be a powerful antidote to depression and anxiety. There are more opportunities for exercise, too. Well, this time to walk Frank during the lockdown played an important role in my well-being, and his too. Dogs need to be walked and cats need to be played with, and there is no doubt that these activities with your pet is crucial to your physical well-being as well as theirs. Getting a dose of fresh air is important for both of you. Also, it provides a reason to go outside, smell the air, and be alone with your thoughts. That's right, I said alone, because when you're outside, there's so much to see, and you're using all your senses. A very good thing. And there's good medical news, too. That's right, having a pet can reduce blood pressure. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, reports that pet ownership can be a key to reducing stress, cholesterol, and triglyceride levels, all things that we need to do to be healthy. And you know what? There doesn't even have to be a pandemic for you to adopt a pet, but you can anyway. It's a good excuse if you need one. If you need a laugh, live alone, want to potentially meet other like-minded pet owners, be more peaceful and happier and calmer, this is something to really consider. I know you know this. It's not for only you, but that furry pet that just may need you as much as you need them. Still a cat person, but I adore my Frankie. Hey, listen, if you've enjoyed this episode of Talk Tales and Trivia, that's great. Email me, talktalesandtrivia@gmail.com. That's me. Email suggestions, comments, questions, or just to say hello. I love that. Go to talktalesandtrivia.com to get to all my episodes, my social media links, and there's a little bio on me if you're wondering what I'm all about. Also, if you have enjoyed Talk Tales and Trivia, well, that's great, right? Well, you may enjoy my second podcast, Growing Uncomfortable. Go to growinguncomfortable.com to get to all the episodes, my social media links, and guess what? That little bio on me is there if you're wondering what I'm all about. One more thing I have to tell you before I go. Subscribe for free. Subscribing is free, and it just gives you the notifications of when new episodes come out. It is so cool. Okay, listen, I got to get out of here, but I will see you next time on Talk Tales and Trivia. Okay, bye-bye.